We are beginning with this Advent season, we begin a new calendar year for the church. And that's, and you know, the church ran, or in our calendar starting in January, it really has to do with the sun. You know, there's the idea that the sun is returning, and so on January 1, we rejoice. The sun has made another revolution around around the earth, and we're rejoicing that we have another year of life. The sun is coming back, so there's this great celebration. Well, the idea of Christmas is that the sun, the S-O-N, has returned, and the S-O-N has given us life. And so there's a different sort of focus. And so really the church calendar year starts today. It starts today. This is the beginning. And what I would like us to do on this day, and in fact every day of this church year, is to focus on one thought. And you're going to be hearing this thought again and again this year. And the thought is listen. Just listen. Just listen. And some of us need help in that area. Some of us, how many of you are selective listeners? I just want, and now wait a second. Now Tracy, I see your hand up and then pointing as well. It's up and pointing. It's both. It's you and your husband. Dan, are you a little selective in your listening? Oh, this is, you know, it's. I see. You know, some of us have that selective listening going on, and that selective. You know. I don't know why it is, but you know, you put some football trivia out there, and I'm sort of attuned to that, and a lot of other kind of things. I don't know what women are attuned to, though, because I'm so attuned to my own area of being attuned, and for sure, this morning it's my prayer that we're gonna listen. We're gonna listen. Especially the next few weeks, to a prophet in the Old Testament by the name of Isaiah. And this morning we're going to be listening, I pray, to a message about hope. And that's a message that I think we really need in a day and age in which we live. You turn on the TV set, and there you hear this which starts out maybe with the economic meltdown that's pending, and then the environmental catastrophe that's just about to happen, global terrorism on the one hand, and a police state on the other. So you're getting this thing, well, which evil do I really want? Do I want to save the planet, or do I want the economy to go ahead? Do I want the world to be free, or do I want to live with terrorism? It's kind of this question that's going around. I think one of the major concerns at our house is whether or not we can listen to any more of my jokes, and that's one of the biggest concerns that's been raised. And so anyhow, that's the issues that where I think a lot of us come to, and we're saying, gosh, if there's any great need that we face in our day and age, I think it's for that word hope. I know some of us are not as pleased with our president's direction in life, but he did write a book that I thought was at least captured something that is important. And the statement was the audacity of hope. It says that, you know, how can you have hope in a society such as ours, a time such as ours? And I think that question is a good question. Hope seems to me to be something a lot of people have kind of left off as something that they just can't enter into. In fact, I think I've got a picture about this. I don't know how sharp that picture is, but I think the idea is that's hope. That's an angel of hope, and she's playing on a harp, and I think the harp has one string. You know, I think that's the whole idea. And over top, underneath her, she's sitting on the world, and the world is filled with all kinds of issues and stuff. And she said, how can you play this tune of hope when everything seems to be so forlorn. And that message it seems to me to be a real message that we grapple with. Why is it? Let me ask you a question. Why is it that a football player or an entertainer can make the gobzillion dollars? Why is that? What's going on there? Why? I think they make more money than Jim Young does. Is that correct? I mean, a good football player, Jim. This is why is it? Why is it that people are transfixed by every technological advance that comes along? Why is it that we have to get the newest cell phone, the newest computer, the newest TV definition, the newest of whatever technology offers? What is it? And people will spend, what is it, Best Buy? People were camping out a week before to get that best, that newest, and that newest technological advance. This one woman said, they had this picture on TV. This one woman, and this was her Thanksgiving meal. She was eating a meal outside with her family because they were in line waiting to buy a video game, the newest video game that she says she can get for half price, so that her family can be blessed by this video game, and their Thanksgiving meal is there on a styrofoam being eaten out of a styrofoam cup. It's just, and the question is, what's going on? What is going on? And what is going on that at every corner where there's a light, you'll find a drugstore. And the drug companies are making money hand over fist. What is going on that drug companies are making so much money? They don't know what to do with all the money they're making, drug companies. They give it away. I mean, they're philanthropists because they're making so much money. I think what's going on in every one of these areas is that escape is our only answer to the problems that we're facing in our day. People are not finding hope, they're seeking escape. And whatever that escape might, whatever shape or form it takes, it's something that we're looking towards. And I think that this is what's going on. Read a great book. One of my favorite authors, Lewis Smedes. He's a seminary professor at Fuller Seminary, and he wrote this book entitled "How Can It Be All Right When Everything Is All Wrong?" And he talks about going into a hospital and visiting with his best friend, and he says he lifted his head a bit, smiled, and said, "It's all right," when he came on into the hospital. And then I left him and never saw him again. But his words have haunted me ever since and have become for me a metaphor of life's deepest question. How can anyone really believe that it's all right when everything is hopelessly wrong? This friend of his was dying with cancer. When I heard that my best friend was dying with cancer, I flew to Michigan from Los Angeles to spend a few days with him while he had strength to talk. Cal and I had been friends since we met on the first day of our first year of college. I knew this would be the last time we would talk on earth after 30 years of a friendship that had never been replaced. We spent 4 days talking together about our past and about his future, as only deeply good friends can talk. And then I had to leave. 3 days later, he would be dead. But as I looked over my shoulder to be in touch with his eyes for one last living moment, he left me the haunting heritage of those commonplace words, "It's all right." But and this is his comment, but it's not all right. It's not all right for Cal's wife, nor for his 4 children, nor for his best friend. What is God up to in a world that doesn't play by our rules? And I'm wondering whether the message is that God is calling out to us to listen. Whether he's saying, I want you to pause long enough to listen. I want to pull you away from the busyness of your life and your world so that you will listen. I don't want you just to speed up and to go faster so that your world is more and more just a living from work and play that just is an escapism. I want you to listen. I want you to hear the voice of God. And I think the prophets were people that got attuned. Their selective listening was to God. I think this is why their message is so profound. And Jesus, the Scriptures call them my servants, the prophets. We have pictures of prophets like John the Baptist, who came in camel hair, and he would say such things as repent and have a change of mind, think differently, act differently. I think the basic message of all the prophets, so essentially this: I want you to listen. I just want you to listen. I want you to listen to what God is saying, because that unfolds for you the direction that I want you to take in life. Again, we have this prophet Isaiah that we're going to be looking at for the next few weeks, because his message really interfaces with Jesus coming. It's a precursor. He's kind of saying, listen for the message of God through the Messiah. In Isaiah 6:1 starts out by saying, in the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord. King Uzziah had been king of Israel for 52 years. That's a long time for a king to be a king. In this day and age, when a lot of people are getting assassinated and murdered, and there's all kinds of things going on, if you're king, you don't necessarily live that long. He was a king for 52 years, which meant that people sort of had a degree of knowing at least what was going on. And by and large, this was a time of prosperity. By and large, it was a time of stability. Uzziah wasn't perfect by any sense. At times, his pride and his arrogance got the best of him, but he lived for 52 years. He reigned for 52 years. He was in control for 52 years, and a lot of us, as long as things are stable, we know at least how things are going to go. Even if there's a good change sometimes creates distortion in our life. And so Uzziah, when he died, I think Isaiah was seeking the Lord in a new way. There was a change. Things had gone upside down in certain ways, and so this forced him to say, I'm seeking God in a new way. I know that with my dad's passing in February, this has caused me to seek God in a new, different way. My identity has begun to change. I don't know if I look older. I feel older. You know what I'm talking about? Anybody here old enough to feel, you know what I'm talking about? That some of you have changed. You've gone from, the only thing that like Jacob and Lisa know is that just a little while ago we were teenagers in love, and then we got married, and that made our life change. When you got married, your life changed. Is that right? Especially for Lisa. It's just life, really. But life change. And then you have 2 new kids, and your identity changes along with your life changing. Well, guess what? It never stops. Every time you go another phase, it never stops. And so you think that things are sort of stable for a while. It seems like there's some stability, but there's change. And this time, it's not. That's exactly the idea. And if I was on TV, I'd cut to this commercial and saying, if you have this pill, this will help you feel better, or you buy this product, you'll. Here's something that's interesting. This is a little bit of a side. Notice how the commercials. When you have this commercial, you see this whatever they're trying to sell. They'll have this guy, and he's really good looking. He's kind of relaxing there, sipping something, and there's this dog, this golden retriever, lying by his feet, and then his wife is just she's dressed to the nines. There's this picture, and it's just saying, oh gosh, if I buy this, I'll be just like them. But the picture is always of rest and relaxation. It's never the tense hurriedness. I got to acquire. It's always the thing. They're trying to sell something that will never be. It's the only way you have what they desire is by finding your own rest and peace in God. It's really sort of a strange sort of anomaly there. Anyways, we have Uzziah dying, Isaiah seeking the Lord, and then I've got another picture. It says, I saw the Lord high and exalted. I don't know if you can see that picture well, but it's a picture of this scene, seated on a throne. There's the Lord, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Above him were seraphim, each with 6 wings. With 2 wings they covered their faces, with 2 they covered their feet. With 2 they were flying, and they're calling to one another, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty. The whole earth is full of his glory. And this majestic picture. And what happens to Isaiah? Well, the sound of the voices, the doorposts and the thresholds shook, and the temple was filled with smoke. And he says, Woe to me, I'm ruined, I'm a man of unclean lips, I live among people of unclean lips, and my eyes have seen the King, the Lord Almighty. I'm in a bad way. Kind of, Jacob, what you're saying. I'm not. This is not very reassuring. This is kind of, I'm there before God, who's the God of change. He's the God who's saying, I'm going to shake things up. I'm going to make things different. I'm going to make things new. And so Isaiah says, gosh, how do I deal with you, holy God? I am a sinful man. And then we have this wonderful proclamation of the gospel. I think we got another picture, and I'm hoping that we can see that. The picture is where one of the seraphim flew to me with a live coal in his hand, in which he had taken with the tongs of the altar, and with it he touched my mouth and said, See, this has touched your lips. Your guilt is taken away, and your sin is atoned for. What a message that is, that where God's saying, the very thing that you're frightened of is a very source of your healing. That is remarkably the case as well for so many of us. The things that we fear the most is the thing that will heal us the greatest. Jesus asks us to do hard things. He says, okay, sell all your possessions, give to the poor. He says things like, okay, I want you to look at that person that you bugs the dickens out of you. Does anybody have somebody in their mind right now that's bugging them? Okay. I don't like it when people are looking at me and they're raising their hand when I ask a question like that. Anyways, and Jesus has the audacity to say, I want you to forgive that person. I want you to pray for him. I want you to forgive them. I want you to pray for them. I want you to pray blessings in their life. I want you to pray that they are just rejoicing. I want you to pray blessings upon blessings into their life, because that's why I've given you this picture. Jesus has a way of just shaking us up and transform us, change the things that we think we would hate to do become the things that release us and free us. And he says, that coal came down. I thought that it was going to burn me, but actually restored me. I'm now forgiven. I find in following what God is saying, I'm finding his forgiveness and his atonement. Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, Whom shall I send? And who will go for us? And I said, Here I am, send me. I want to back up by saying a lot of us stop. We hear the gospel message, we stop before we listen to what God is saying to us beyond that. Oh yes, my sins are forgiven. I'm now saved. I'm now freed. I'm now okay in his sight. And there's no message beyond that. We're not hearing his voice saying, Whom shall I send? You know what? I believe that message, that question is being asked to every one of us. I don't think there's a person here who the voice of God is not saying, Whom shall I send? And the response is supposed to be not just, send Isaiah. I mean, he's a guy that we're supposed to. It's the Lord, send me. I'm the person that you're supposed to send. I am the one. And when Isaiah says this, again, God gives him a message that's not easy. The message is this. He says, Go and tell this people, be ever hearing but never understanding, be ever seeing but never perceiving. You're going to get across a message that people are really not listening. And quite frankly, as I hear this and read this passage, and I'm saying to myself, how selective is my listening? Am I listening to the voice of God at all? Is this a desire of my heart? What takes precedence in my life? Every week, pretty regularly, I gather with a few people on Thursday mornings, and we purpose to listen to God, but every now and then the phone takes precedence. It's, something will ring or something will happen or something. And I'm saying, well, I'm designating this time to listen to God, but it's kind of like, but there are things more important. But what can be more important than listening to God? Let me ask you, seriously, what can be more important in your life? If you're not good at listening to God, what can be more important than scheduling some time with others to hold you accountable, to help you listen to God? I mean, what can be more important? And Isaiah then says, they're not listening. They're not listening. And then he said, then I said to him, well, how long, Lord? How long do I go on? How long are they not going to listen? And the Lord said, until the cities lie ruined without inhabitant, until the houses are left deserted and the fields ruined and ravaged, until the Lord has sent everyone far away and the land is utterly forsaken, until people have reached the end of their rope. I was looking in our house for rope. It's a pretty sad-looking rope. This is kind of frayed and it's kind of short. Reminds me of me. This is my rope. This is my rope. Some of you have longer ropes and bigger and stronger ropes, but they come to the end of their rope. You come to the end of your rope. And I looked that up. What does it mean to come to the end of the rope? I'd always thought it had to do with, somebody putting a noose around your neck. You came to the end of your rope. But I think it's more like you're being helped up out of a pit or something. And this is the resource that you have, this rope. And if you come to the end, there's no other thing to grab onto to pull you out of the pit. And sometimes we've come to the end of our rope. Sometimes some of us feel like how many of you feel like you're close to the end of your rope right now? I mean, you're just kind of, it's in some emotional way, maybe. But maybe, truth of the matter is, every one of us at some point in time will come to the end of our rope. That's true no matter whether our rope seems pretty strong and secure now or not. And again, Lewis Smedes, in this book that I was reading, had this interesting chapter, and he called it "The Gift of Hope." But in it, he says this, and I think we've got a slide here that's coming up. Do we have a slide? Yeah, it's a slide of a calendar. He said, "I bought a brand new date book yesterday, the kind I use every year. Spiral bound, black, imitation leather covers wrapped around pages and pages of blank squares." Any of you do this? You buy a new calendar each year and you kind of fill this thing up. This will be good for you, Tracy. Each square has a number to tell me which day of the month I am in at the moment. Is that helpful? Okay. Tracy, are you a little OCD, by the way? Is this My wife does. A shame. My wife and Tracy. They both do the same thing. Each square is a frame for one episode of my life. Before I'm through with the book, I will fill the squares with classes I will teach, people I will eat lunch with, and everlasting committee meetings I will sit through. And these are only the things I cannot afford to forget. I fill the squares too with thousands of cups of coffee, some lovemaking, some praying, and I hope gestures of help to my neighbors. Whatever I do, it has to fit inside one of those squares on my date book. I live one square at a time. The 4 lines that make the square are walls of time that organize my life. Everything I do has to fit into one square. I cannot straddle the lines. Each square has an invisible door that leads to the next square. At a silent stroke, the door opens and I'm pulled through it as if by a magnet, sucked into the next square in the line. There I will again fill the time frame that seals me, fill it with my busyness, just as I did the square before. As I get older, the squares seem to get smaller. One day, I will walk into a square that has no door. There will be no mysterious opening and no walking into an adjoining square. One of the squares will be terminal. I do not know which square it will be. I went on to say, some people believe that that last square is a tomb. It's a box. It may be a crematorium. That's it. But we gather here because we have hope in the resurrection of Jesus Christ. We believe that we have been given a rope, not a frayed one like this, but it's Jesus' own rope that's being brought down to us from heaven. It's made of solid gold. It's as secure and strong as it can be. It wraps itself around us, and we don't even have to wrap it. It just wraps around us and pulls us into His presence. That's our hope. That's our hope. That's our hope no matter what's going on right now. It's our hope that this is not the end, that what we see is not the end, that what's going on is not the end, that what we see is all around us is not the stuff that is the final word. The final word is in God's hands. You know, there's this great, great passage that we read at Christmas time. Isaiah says these words, time looks pretty black, bleak. There's all kinds of difficulties with nations invading and people wondering if life is going to be turned upside down, what will happen in the future. Collectively and individually, people are wondering what's going on. Hope seems to be at a premium. And the message comes to Isaiah, therefore the Lord Himself will give you a sign. The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son and will call him Emmanuel, which means what? God is with you. So that's the hope. That's the rope that God gives to us, that God is with us. Despite everything else that's going on, God is with you. And that's the message that came to Joseph. Remember, Joseph is saying, gosh, I've come to the end of my rope. I'm supposed to get married to this woman. She's pregnant. And it's not by me, somebody else. And he's saying, I guess I'll just divorce her. I'll do it quietly because that's, I guess, a more manly thing to do. It's a good thing to do, not to make her look bad. But let me tell you something. I'm feeling bad. I'm feeling hopeless. And then he receives a message in a dream. And the angel says to him, the virgin will conceive and give birth to a son and will call him Emmanuel. God is with us. God is with you, Joseph. Doesn't matter what you're going through. It doesn't matter how hopeless it seems. It doesn't matter how many times you prayed this prayer and it's not been seemingly heard or answered. It doesn't matter how difficult life is. It doesn't matter what you're facing. Emmanuel. God is with us. That's your hope. That's the hope that we have. And it doesn't matter what kind of transition in life that we're going through. It doesn't matter who has died. It doesn't matter what is going on as long as God is with us. I think every time, actually, a baby is born, it's God's message, Emmanuel, Emmanuel, God is with us. There's the future. There's hope. Every time there's a baby. But this particular baby, I think, was unusual. And I think what set Jesus apart more than anything else, and makes Him different than you and me, I think Jesus really listened. I think Jesus really listened to the Father. I think He was really listening. I think He was selectively listening to His Father, and it made Him different. Lord, I just pray right now. I pray that we will get better at listening to your voice. I don't know how that happens. I know that I'm not very good at it. I know that I need help in this area. I know that this is where I am encouraged and sustained and strengthened, is when I listen to you. And so I just want to get better at that, and I want to hear this message that you want from me, that's a message of hope. In a world there's a lot of stuff, in my own world where there's stuff, it's just a message that things are going to be okay. It's all going to work out. You're going to take care of us. And Lord, I look forward to the way that you're going to do it and how you're going to do it. And Lord, I just give thanks right now. I give thanks for this opportunity to gather as a body of believers on this first day of this new year of before your return. And I just pray that during this year, I'm going to listen. We're going to listen. And I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.